start joining here soon. But cheers. Thank you again.
Salud.
Salud. Yeah.
It's delayed.
Right? Yeah, it's a little delayed. Yeah. Yeah, so you'll be able to see yourself there. And then,
That's like delayed by 2 seconds.
yeah. And then people will post comments, and then we'll be able to read them.
We'll be able to read them here?
Yeah, we'll be able to read
Cool.
them here. Yeah. So yeah.
What about when we play? Will they be able to see us?
Yeah, we'll be able to see Anna here.
I mean, but how are you going to angle it? I guess I can just stay here and play from here, right?
Yeah,
And you can
let's get back here. Welcome, everybody to Woke Wednesdays. Folks are still getting on. Welcome, Miss Curly. Welcome, Naidis. Welcome. So we do this every single Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we have a really cool guest. Awesome guy. And yeah, so so my name is Herson. We do this every single Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tonight's topic, we're approaching the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I thought we thought it'd be a great idea to kind of talk to you. And you want to introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, tell them whatever you want.
Sure, thank you, Herson. It's good to be with you and your audience. My name is Ricardo Garcia. I go by Rick. I am an assistant professor here at FIU, teaching education leadership and policy studies with the School of Education and Human Development. I've been here for 2 months in Miami. I was actually here maybe about 3 weeks, and then I had to go back home to Dallas because of Hurricane Irma. Kind of busted the party up. But I was lucky to get out of here in time, and fortunately Miami survived, and everything looks great. I'm here for the long haul, so it's good to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So he's being modest, Dr. Garcia, all right, as he's known to some. See, people are looking at us. There you go. So Dr. Garcia, but Rick for short. So thank you. That's pretty cool too. The fact that we can relate to you on that level is pretty cool. So every Wednesday we try to make this interactive. So if you have any questions, any comments, if you agree, disagree with anything that we say, let us know. We can talk about it. We can chat about it. But tonight the Latino experience in the United States is a messy one. It's a complicated one. It's a different one for everybody, right? So where are you coming from? Because you're not from Miami.
I'm not from Miami.
So where are you from?
I'm from Texas. Harlingen, Texas, to be exact, and that's what they call the Rio Grande Valley, El Valle de Texas.
So where is that? Like
that, if you are familiar with the state or the geography or what the state looks like, we are at the very tip of Texas, and they call it El Valle, the Rio Grande Valley. We are about 5 minutes away from Brownsville, Texas, so Mexico is there as well, about 8 to 10 minutes away. And then over towards the east, you'll find Padre Island. So it's kind of a haven, a nice place to grow up as a Latino. There's a lot of Latinos down there for decades that have lived in the valley, that have come obviously from Mexico, made their way up north to Texas.
So are you Mexican?
I am Mexicano.
So you were born there, or you were born here?
I was born in the U.S., and I was very fortunate. My parents arrived here in the mid-40s. Arrived to Texas, and I was born here, and so were my 2 sisters and my brother.
Now, the Bracero program was introduced around the 40s, right?
Yep.
So
you got it.
Did they come through the Bracero program? Bracero program, real quick, was kind of like a federal government initiative where they were picking pretty much undocumented people, right, from Mexico, bringing them over. And making them work here as really cheap labor.
You got it.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, then after the Bracero program, they instituted the Wetback Act or something where it was deporting these people back to Mexico.
Right back. You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they even deported American-born Mexicans. Mm-hmm. Right? Go ahead.
It's kind of like we're kind of hearing and experiencing today, right? Kind of like the pendulum swinging right back. Let's send them all back.
Yeah.
No, but my parents didn't come here with the Bracero program. They came here during that era.
Oh, okay.
My dad came over in the sink or swim era.
Explain that.
That means he swam the river.
He
crossed the river illegally to get to the United States.
Now, so when people say, so even the term wetback, right? It means that it implies that we swam here. Right. It's a derogatory term. So your dad, he legit swam.
He did it.
He swam.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know, Michael Phelps of today, but not as fast.
The Mexican version.
The Mexican version, and about 3 feet shorter.
Wow.
Yeah, but he came here, and
did he tell you stories about that?
I'm sorry?
Did he tell you stories about that?
Yeah, he's told the stories, and of course he's a little bit like Pinocchio, where his nose would grow a little bit, and we didn't know whether to believe the story or not. But then in talking with relatives, you put 2 and 2 together, and you realize that, man, he was pretty remarkable what he did back in the 40s. But yeah, he came here, and
why did he come here?
For a better life, like all Mexicanos. I mean, if you've ever traveled to Texas, you see a lot of Mexicanos working in the agricultural business. And not that they're businessmen, but really picking cotton, picking citrus fruits, working as laborers, obviously, but then also doing lawns. Very, very common down in Texas because of landscaping. And obviously in the kitchens. And you see some of that here in Miami, too. I've been to some of the restaurants here, and yeah, you have the Cuban influence, but I also see Mexicanos from time to time working in the kitchen.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely. I have some comments here.
Okay.
One of my frat brothers is saying America is just like shaking his head like, man, like talking about the Wetback Act.
Oh yeah,
just like horrible.
Yeah.
Another young
the title
lady
itself, Wetback. Come on.
Yeah, I mean wetback, extreme
Jeez.
pejorative. Someone else, Stephanie, her dad's from Nicaragua. She's saying same. Her dad also swam into Texas. Her dad's from Nicaragua.
Hope he's doing well. Hope he's doing well.
Yeah. So Stephanie, your dad. So your dad came and your mom came during the 40s, right? Did your mom have the same experience? Did she also swim here, or how did she get here?
No, actually, my mom didn't know how to swim. But what happened was my dad arrived, and he had family here in San Antonio. He joined the armed forces back then, the military. And he was actually a veteran from the Korean War.
Wow.
So after joining the armed forces, he learned, he was actually a cook. And we didn't learn that until my brother, who's quite a bit older than me, he joined the Army too. But talking about my dad, he joined the military back then, learned to speak English, granted superbly broken, and he only had a 3rd grade education in Mexico, and my mother had a 6th grade education. But after my dad became he joined the Army and then became a veteran, well, he would go to Mexico and see his old girlfriend, which was my mother. And he brought her to the States, and because they married, then she was able to legally come over to the United States and live here and have a family.
And so let me ask you a question. And by Meg Garcia.
Oh, I know that kid.
Is that your daughter?
Yeah.
Hi, Meg. Heard a lot about you. A lot of great things about you. She's saying, "Love that man's clear glasses."
She picked them out. By the way.
She did. Oh, okay, that's what it is. So when your dad joined the military, did he ever experience? Because I've seen Cesar Chavez's movie.
Right.
If any of y'all have heard of Cesar Chavez or haven't, please watch the movie with Michael Peña, where he talks about his experience in the military, and it was, I mean, very racist experience, a lot of discrimination. Did your dad ever? You said he was a cook. Was he allowed to be another position in the military?
That's a great question. And typical of Latinos, and I don't know today's generation if it's like that or not, but when we were growing up, and this is growing up in the late 60s, early 70s, you have total respect for your dad, and so you can't question anything. You didn't talk really to your dad. He just kind of told you what you had to do, and you did what your dad did, or you did what your dad asked you to do. So, to answer your question, we never really talked about it, but I know he would from time to time comment on how, they would differentiate between him and a white soldier, and they would send him in the rain to go, typical Army boot camp training kind of things that you hear, where he would go out in the rain carrying his rifle over his head, over his shoulders, that kind of stuff. But
he couldn't speak English.
But he couldn't speak English, so he was learning, and
wow.
You can only imagine what that must have been like.
Wow, boot camp in the 40s.
Yeah.
Not speaking English and being Mexican, being real
brown.
brown.
Oh yeah, you got it, real brown.
And so, real quick, so Mexicans, like any other person from Latin America, we come in all colors. We can be white, green, blonde eyes. We can be black.
Yeah. Right.
We can be brown.
Sure.
We have
Spanish
Asian Latinos.
Yeah, Asian.
So we have a lot of different
Afro-Caribbean.
Afro-Caribbean. Yeah, so we have a lot of different type of Latinos that look differently, but your family is very brown, right? So I can't even imagine what that would be like in the military, not speaking English, just got to the United and undocumented. That I can't even imagine what that would be like for your dad.
And it's funny you say very brown. My family, my nucleus or immediate family, we are a little bit diverse in color. My dad was light skinned.
Oh, okay,
and now,
okay.
I'm not saying he was white, but he was very light skinned, probably lighter skinned than you.
Yeah.
My mother was more along my complexion, but my brother, same complexion. My youngest sister, same, and then my second sister, my oldest, is white. Very light skin.
Oh wow!
So you see, I think the Spanish influence in the family,
and
then the native Mexican influence, because my grandmother was India. My grandmother was indigenous. Yeah,
wow.
Whether she was Mexica, Olmec, Toltec, we don't know, but we know we had roots with native Mexicans.
Did she speak Spanish?
She spoke Spanish. Oh yeah.
Did she speak also her native?
No,
tongue?
she did not. But I would. I would probably say that our grandparents, my great-grandparents, did at some point.
Wow.
But she had, a long ponytail down, beside, beyond her bottom. It was a very long hair, very Indian look to her. And her clothing, it was very native.
Now, so here's a question. So in Central America, specifically in Nicaragua, right? That's where my family's from. Sure. To call someone an Indian, un indio, is a very racist term. It's a very demeaning term. Is it the same in Mexico?
Yeah, it can be.
It can be?
It can be. But in Mexico, it's part of growing up, too, that experience where you would see the light-skinned Latinos, Mexicanos, and then the dark-skinned Mexicanos, and then those that were of the Indian descent, right?
Yeah.
And they were almost kind of in the shadow, in the back. You rarely would see them. And then around the 70s, you started seeing them even on TV, but portrayed as, unfortunately, not very intelligent.
Yeah.
And the brunt of all jokes.
Yeah.
There used to be, I remember as a kid watching, there was a comedian named La India. La India Maria, yeah.
India
and
Maria.
man, I was.
Yes, La India Maria,
it would piss me off because I would think, my gosh, why do we find humor in that? And I was a kid. I was probably 10, 11, 12.
Right. Yeah.
And it would tick me off because...
Go ahead, sorry.
Because here we are, some of us trying to get educated, a lot of us from Mexico trying to come over to the States for a better life, and yet here we were making fun of La India Maria, and she was actually, when you think about it, she was actually portraying our people through a bad lens, making money off of that character.
Yeah. So it did not hit me until you said it now. I grew up watching the reruns of India Maria, right, on Univision or Telemundo, whatever, the Spanish channels, and she would wear, imagine like a shorter, like chubbier woman wearing like indigenous clothing, right, with like the bright colors, had the long ponytails, and the extreme stereotype. Yeah. I mean, just a racist stereotype. But I never thought about that until you mentioned it right now. You're so right. Like, wow, it just clicked for me. Yeah, like, Maria was a complete I want to read some of these comments. Let's see here. Mario saying, shout out to all the native indigenous folks that are out there. He actually put up the fist too. Stephanie saying, shout out. Mario saying, erasure seems to be a major theme in regards to native and indigenous people. And not just in the United States, but clearly also in Latin America, just the way we get rid of these people. Kathy saying, I was just thinking of La India Maria as you guys were mentioning this. They were just giving it last week. They were interesting. There was a survey taken in Uruguay a couple decades ago, where they were asking people what they thought of the natives of the country. And
the Guarani? The Guarani?
I'm not sure. It could be, but most Uruguayos, Uruguayans, I don't know how to say in English, thought they were subhuman. They were less human.
Wow.
And this is still a couple decades ago. I read an article today, one of those scholarly peer-reviewed articles, in regards to African people, Afro-Cubans in Cuba, where only 20 years ago in Cuba, in 1997, there was a poll taken in Cuba, and they asked people what they thought about black Cubans, and the white Cubans said that again they were subhuman, less intelligent. So we see the parallels or the similarities of indigenous people and African people in our countries, and how they're just thought of just less than human, less intelligent. So it seems to be not just an American thing. Like, this is a global thing.
It is
right?
definitely. Color of your skin?
Yeah, color of your skin. All this stuff, just everything. Okay, so we talked about your dad. We haven't even talked about you.
Oh, that's fine.
All right, so you were born in the United States. You were born in Texas.
Right.
So, you were just kind of talking to me the other day, and I look up to you too as a Latino man. And the stories you were telling me were very visceral, very kind of surreal. And you were talking about growing up and picking cotton in Texas. So can you kind of talk to us a little bit about that? Because a lot of people in the United States think that only African Americans were the ones picking cotton, but so there was also another dynamic to it, where it was also Latino people picking cotton.
Right. So in Valle de Texas, or the Rio Grande Valley, which is Harlingen, Brownsville, McAllen, PSJA, which is far San Juan Alamo.
That's like southern Texas?
Yeah, the very southern tip of Texas. It's kind of a climate that's similar to Miami. If you look at us, I guess, horizontally from Miami to Harlingen, or the tip of Texas, we are pretty much parallel with Miami. It's funny, so I guess we're close to the equator, whatever. I'm not a geographer.
Yeah, so like geographically southern.
We're very similar. But the point is that the temperature there is pretty, I guess, tropical. And so it's very common to have the citrus industry is pretty big. Oranges, mandarins, grapefruits, tomato, although that's not a citrus. But then there is cotton. And so what you would see back in the late 60s, early 70s, which is the time when I was growing up as a child, you would have Mexicanos that would cross the border, and because they're looking for work, and the people or the person that owns an orchard or a cotton field is looking for cheap labor, Mexicanos would be hired to do the job. And so in some instances, my family would take on the job of picking cotton. We never picked citrus, but we did do cotton. And, I didn't do it a lot. I was a child. I must have been 7 years old, 6, 7, 8 years old. But I do remember working in the fields down in the Rio Grande Valley where it's superbly hot. I mean, we're getting 100-degree weather or above. And there we are with my family picking cotton. Granted, I was a child, so probably most of the time I was just goofing around, playing around.
Yeah.
But it was an experience that I'll never forget, because I remember telling my family, and even to this day, my sisters and my brother, and we all get together as a family, they would laugh because they remember me saying, "Para qué me trajeron a este mugrero? Why did you bring me to this sorry ass place?" Even at that age, I knew that a child should not be working in a field. But that was the experience I had, and now, in hindsight, it's something that I never really think about, and maybe it's not that I've suppressed it, but it's just something that I don't think about enough, and I probably should, because there's probably children that are still doing something similar to what I did back in 1971, 72.
To me, when you first told me this, I thought this was, especially as a young brown Latino, growing up in the United States, I was like, damn, this man picked cotton and now has a PhD, right? Like, that doesn't, statistically, you're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, you're
like, statistically, right. you're more likely to be in prison. I was just talking with my frat brothers about that. And so, and one thing that's powerful, I don't know if people caught this, but you were 7 years old, a baby, a child.
Yeah.
Now we have labor laws, but at the time there were labor laws against children against children working, but not children who look like you.
Oh, good point.
Right? There were laws for white children.
Yeah.
Or there were laws for children.
Right.
But for
Tony, but it was assumed that it was for this color of child, not this other color.
Toni
of child.
Morrison. Please look her up if you haven't. No, was it? I think either Toni Morrison. I think it was Toni Morrison, where she says that everyone is American except for me. I am the hyphen. I am the Afro-American. That's what she was talking about. Same thing with us. We're when we say children, it automatically implies white children, right? So even in the law, so when we say all men are created equal, well, which men? Well, usually
Right.
white men, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So even then, even though there were laws against child labor,
Right.
that wasn't the case for
Yeah,
you.
we were under the radar. I mean,
Yeah.
that was happening, and I'm glad you're pointing that out because, my daughters, both of them, are into the, we talk about, like you just mentioned right now, the difference between white and brown or students or people of color, but they're also exploring the biracial
Yeah.
issue because they happen to have a brown father and they have a white mother because I'm married to an Anglo-Americana, and so my daughters are biracial.
Yeah.
And so that's another spectrum of the Latino world
Yeah.
that is up and coming. I mean,
Yeah. There's not a lot of scholarship on that.
no,
Yeah.
and that's Hispanic white. There's Hispanic African American, the mixture that we are integrating with everyone. I mean, whether you like it or not, Latinos are really expanding, or we keep growing.
Yeah. One thing people are saying, let me see here. Kathy's saying right now that this is still happening with human trafficking. They go to different countries, promise them the American dream, and reality as a form of human trafficking. Yeah, so definitely child labor, human trafficking is still, even in this country, it still goes on in very ways that we'll never know, right? Hidden forms. Kathy's saying a lot of people think human trafficking is just about sexual, but there's also a labor exploitation.
Yeah.
And this definitely happens around the world.
Yeah.
It's interesting when I think about capitalism. Anytime there's a sale going on at a store, so you get this shirt for $3. Why is it $3? It's probably some child in Indonesia.
Yeah.
was
China,
making-
Taiwan,
Taiwan. They're making this stuff.
Bangladesh. Yeah.
So
That's, by the way, that's called fast fashion.
fast fashion.
Yeah, meaning we produce, the U.S. will outsource our companies to create more clothing, apparel,
Yeah.
textile, and we're going to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, China, Taiwan, and it's cheap labor, so we're producing all these new apparels. They come to us, and then we market it to the American consumer because we are heavy duty into consumption.
Oh yeah, the Americans are very materialist country.
So today I'm going to go to the Gap. Today I'm going to go to American Eagle and
Kathy
whatever.
says Nike factories. Yeah.
And there you go. And I'm going to purchase this nice shirt. But you know what? By next month, this nice shirt, I'm kind of tired of it. I need one that fits a little bit better. So I'm going to drop it and go buy another one because they're
what's that called?
cheap.
You said
Fast fashion.
Fast fashion.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Oh yeah, Natasha's saying H&M.
Yeah, H&M, perfect.
Yeah.
Right on, H&M. That's a great example.
So you grew up picking cotton, but you also told me another story I just been thinking about it a lot. About when you went to Mexico,
Okay.
and you told me that you had shoes.
Yes.
So so you grew up in
Right.
poverty,
Well,
right? Can you break it down for us a
Sure.
little bit? Yeah.
So, like most people, most Latinos, you're not aware that you're not well off, and
Ooh, that's a powerful point.
Yeah,
You're not aware that you are not well off.
Yeah, you're just
Ooh.
happy. You're playing with children in your
Ooh.
neighborhood that look like you, that are brown like you, but you're adapting to American way of
Ooh,
life. You're
that's
playing
powerful.
American football. I played soccer, but I played more baseball than I did soccer. Yet I spent the first 15 years of my life going to Mexico every summer
Yeah.
during my summer vacation
Yeah.
from school. And in Mexico, you play soccer. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I played baseball,
Yeah.
and so I was kind of an oddball. But
You were white.
Well, I was not white.
Did they call you that?
They
Because
called
you
you.
played baseball?
They call you pocho.
Yeah. What is that?
Pocho meaning that you are brown on the outside but white on the inside.
Pocho.
Which I don't know exactly.
Wow, I've never heard that before.
But I certainly was not.
No, yeah, but that's interesting though, because for black folks they'll call them Oreos,
Right.
right?
Right.
When I went to Nicaragua, they called me Gringo Negro, because Gringo meaning white, Negro
Yeah.
meaning black.
Yeah.
I was too brown to be
How old were you?
American. I was 13.
Yeah.
Too brown to be American,
Yeah.
and then I'm too white to be from Nicaragua.
I guess
What,
developmentally we don't change a whole lot because if you were 13,
Interesting.
that's kind of the age that I encountered that in
Yeah.
Monterrey,
Pocho.
Mexico. Yeah, so
I've never heard that before. It might be I'm guessing it's a Mexican term.
yeah, it's a Mexican
Yeah.
term, just derogatory towards
Oh, okay,
somebody
okay,
that
okay.
was Mexican American. That you are a
Mhm.
Chicano, from here we go going back to the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Term from California, Chicano.
Yeah. Chicano, real quick, it's an American-born Mexican.
Yeah, and
right?
you can trace its roots to the term Mexica, and Mexica goes back to the Aztecs. And so
it's an indigenous group.
So the term Mexica then became Mexicano, right? Mexicano.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, okay.
So when you go to Monterrey, Mexico, here comes the Pocho, who's brown on the outside but white on the inside because he doesn't play soccer. He plays baseball.
Yeah.
And then he comes to our neighborhood where we're all barefoot, but he's wearing high tops, which was an American thing from basketball. And I'm wearing high tops, and even today I still wear a pair of
Chuck Taylors.
Chuck Taylors, yeah. My sisters always laugh because
they were the first basketball shoes in their state.
That's right.
Yeah.
My sisters still laugh because I'm 55 and I still wear my high tops.
You don't have to tell your age. So Chuck Taylor. Okay, you're a cool guy. You're a cool guy.
So you go down to Mexico, everybody's barefoot. You got your Chuck Taylors. You're playing baseball. You're teaching them how to play American football, and they didn't like that. Here's this Pocho trying to teach us how to play a new game, and then the girls like this guy because he's a teenager and he's 13 and he speaks English.
Oh, and so now you're fetishized too. You're like exoticized. Like, right?
Oh, I don't know about that.
In a way that, he's an American.
In a way,
right?
Yeah. In a way.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So I have some. I forgot what Stephanie's point was about. We're not aware because entire communities are living in poverty, so that's all you see. Oh yeah, so she's saying that you weren't aware that you were poor because everyone that was around you was also poor. Yeah, that's what Stephanie said.
That's exactly right, Stephanie. It's the environment that we grow up in.
Yeah.
So if you grow up in what I consider to be a safe environment, because everybody was my color, and we were all Mexican American, I felt safe, and I played with them, and we had a great time. But there was a difference even there in that little community of Harlingen where I grew up, because everybody that was in my neighborhood was third, fourth, or fifth generation Mexican American. I was first generation, which meant that my parents had no education. They did not speak English. My dad did, but it was very broken. My friends, peers that I grew up with, their parents had gone to American school, and even though they spoke English with a very broken accent and couldn't really articulate things very well in English, they did speak English and they did get an American education.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question after this. Kayla's saying just wow to everything. Laura, the Mexican student I told you about.
Yeah.
She said, hey Laura, she said yes. They call me Little Pochita too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So really? I guess that's still a term.
It's still around.
That's still around. Yeah, Pochita. I had never heard that until now. Yeah.
That's something else.
Isn't that crazy, right? It's just
passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
If she's your age, that's totally a different generation from mine.
Yeah. Well, you're younger than me though. You're younger. You're like 2 years younger than me. You are. You're about 2 years younger. So
what are you drinking?
I drank it all already. I might need a refill here in a bit. We drink water on the show. It is iced tea. But no. So all right. So you were there and you were like, I remember you telling me something that just impacted me when you were in Mexico. You said we were poor, but at least we had shoes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. Like, so you were acknowledging how poor you were.
Yeah.
But at least you had shoes in comparison to the little kids in El Barrio, right, in Mexico.
Yeah. And that's, again, coming to the land of opportunity. Not that I came from Mexico to the U.S.
Yeah.
My parents did. But it's just a difference in level of poverty.
Yeah.
In the U.S. to, say, a third world country like maybe even Mexico, where I grew up with my relatives and friends, where they were running around barefoot, and to them that was nothing. I mean, their feet were just black as could be from collecting dirt day after day after day.
And they didn't even they didn't even really.
It was nothing. No, I mean callous and nothing. And I remember my cousins in the same position. They had shoes, but had gotten so used to being barefoot that they were just running around barefoot. And then the shoes that they had would only be either brown or black, and that pair of shoes lasted them until they outgrew them. Yeah. And here I come. Chuck Taylors, and then I had another pair of dress-up shoes because we would go to church, to Misa on a Sunday.
So you had two pairs of shoes.
So I had two pairs of shoes. Yeah.
Oh, you're fancy now.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're calling me an ageist, they said I'm displaying ageism. Kathy said, right, Kayla, there's nothing wrong with being 55 years young.
Thank you.
So I guess they like you. They always pick on me. They're disrespectful people.
That's because they like you. People pick on you, they like you.
All right, so you're growing up in poverty, right? And your parents, low levels of formal education.
Oh yeah.
So, did college ever seem like something that you could do? Like, was that like what is college like? Especially like in the 60s, 70s. Like what happened? Like what? Music is important to you.
Oh yeah.
Right? And
Look
people
at
can
you.
see I'm trying to host. I'm trying to be a host.
Good.
I'm trying to be a host.
Yeah.
As people can see, there's a keyboard behind me.
Yeah.
We got some instruments here. We're gonna play something for you later. But music became important to you at some point.
Oh yeah.
When did it become important to you, and why?
Well, let me back up just a little bit and
Go
clarify
for it.
yeah, we lived in poverty, but then, as you all know, there's different levels of poverty. My father, fortunately, he had a skill, and he was a tile setter, which means that he worked with tile and ceramics, and so he was a master craftsman. He was really gifted. Even though he didn't have a formal education, he was very gifted at building bathrooms, jacuzzis, and anything related to ceramics. So he had a skill that he learned from another, they call him maestro. So if you're a maestro, that means that you're a master at your craft, and he learned well to the point that he became a maestro himself. So when he came over, he actually had his own little company, and we had 5 bands with people that he would hire from across the border that would come and work for him, and he would train them on tile setting. But the point I'm making is, even though we were poor, there were still people even poorer than us with parents who had no skill at all. And so you would see them working in the fields, or you would see them doing lawn work.
Yeah. But you also told me that you would have summer jobs, and anytime you had a summer job, you would come back home and you would give your parents all the money you made.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So real quick.
Right.
Yeah. If you tell
Yeah.
I don't want the words around,
And this is probably, I don't know if it's common today still with Latinos, but since we lived in poverty, you would land a summer job, and I was 15 years old. I remember my first job, because I used to work with my dad, and I worked with my dad since I was like 7, 6. But when I turned 15, I was eligible to work for the city of Harlingen. So I wanted to leave my dad and move on to something else that paid maybe even more. But even when I worked with my dad would pay me $20, $30.
That's a lot of money.
What would I do with that money?
Yeah.
That money went to my mother, who was the
matriarch.
She was a matriarch. Yeah, exactly. So I would give my mother the money, and out of that $20, $30, I would get $3, $5. The other $15 or so would go to the family account to pay bills, put food on the table. So when I finally left my dad in his tile setting business, and I started working for the city of Harlingen, which, by the way, I was a garbage man. I wanted to work so bad and something totally different, that I went and applied with the city of Harlingen. The city said, great, we have a summer job for you. Here you go, show up at this place at 7 a.m. sharp. I show up, big old banner, welcome to City of Harlingen, sanitation department. So I was a garbage man for an entire summer, and if you can imagine, at 15 years old, going down the neighborhood and going down the alley.
Were there any white kids working that job? Out of curiosity?
Hell no. All the garbage men were Mexicanos.
Were there any black kids in there?
There were some African American children, but they lived in their little isolated pocket.
So very segregated.
Very segregated.
Very segregated.
You got it. Very, very segregated.
Wow.
But you were asking me, what was the point? The question you were asking me?
About you giving me money back to your parents.
Yeah, so that was very common for us. My brother, my sisters, and me, as we worked summer jobs, we would come home with a paycheck, and that paycheck would go to the family. And even when I was 18, I got better at finding better jobs. I actually worked as a telephone man, installing telephones down in the Rio Grande Valley and in South Padre Island on the beach, back before it became the big resort area that it is today, owned by most Mexican nationals, by the way. But anyway, I was installing telephones.
That's a whole other episode.
Oh my god! So I was installing telephones for AT&T And I was coming home with a healthy paycheck because I was a telephone installer.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And come to think of it, I have to think that, was my dad bothered by that? Because I was making pretty good impact. I mean, pretty good money. And here's my dad, hard laborer, skilled, but hard labor. And here I am. Yeah, I'm working hard, but I'm working with my hands on a much smaller project compared to what he did, mixing cement. And here I am just hooking up wires and telephones. Coming with a healthier paycheck every quincena, every 2 weeks, and that money going to the family.
So we could talk about some.
Yeah,
let me read some of these comments. Someone said they did not just see me pouring whatever I was pouring. I told him it was iced tea. J. Lee Garcia. I think that might be someone you know.
She is an up and coming artist.
Okay.
In the Midwest.
She said that's my dad. Mario saying, give my man his props. That stuff is mad stressful. J. Lee Garcia saying, Dad, tell them about the weird stuff you found in the trash. And now everybody wants to know what you saw in the trash. Now everybody's asking questions about what you see in the trash.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
Lee has all the good stories.
Yeah.
So it's Lee and who's the other daughter?
Yeah, Meg.
Lee and Meg. Okay.
Yeah.
Lee and Meg, we're gonna have to come to you for some references.
Yeah, I love you,
stories. Girls. So go ahead.
So I remember one time, here I am, 15 years old, working as a garbage man, and I'm holding on to the truck, and the garbage men are all Mexicanos, and I'm of course Mexicano too, and I'm on the back holding on to the truck, and we go down this alley, and I hate to say this, but my fellow Latinos were lazy as could be. And of course,
they're lazy. They're just lazy.
Oh yeah, they take siestas.
They're lazy people. Yeah.
So they were probably 40 years old, maybe even my age today, in their 50s. And so we would drive up the alley, and they go, "Okay, there's a trash can. You're probably a lot younger and stronger than us, so go ahead and go pick it up." So here I go. I pick up a trash can. I put my arms around it. I pick it up, and what pops out? A tarantula lands on my chest, and I'm paranoid. I don't like spiders. So this thing about as big as my hand lands on my chest. I swat it down. It falls to the ground, and then it turns around as to look at me, and I look at it.
No way.
And most people would step on me. Right? I just stared at it and ran. And so did the tarantula. It went the opposite way. So that was one experience.
It was a racist tarantula.
It was a racist tarantula.
That's what it was.
And by the way, it was a black tarantula.
Oh man,
Come on, man.
Prejudiced tarantula.
Come on. And then another thing was we would go to the landfill where we would empty out the garbage truck, and you would see all kinds of things. I'm surprised I didn't see a dead body, but you would see snakes, and I'm talking about boas, huge, like 10 to 12 feet snakes, about as thick or thicker than my thigh or my arm, and then seeing sharks. I mean, we lived,
sharks at the track.
People that would go out, we down in the tip of Texas, we're right next to Padre Island. So people would go deep sea fishing, and then they would catch a shark, and then they wouldn't know how to get rid of it, so they just throw it in the landfill. So thankfully,
but you said something interesting just now. You said you're surprised you didn't see dead bodies. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you consider what we see today, and Lee can probably explain this a lot better than I can, but immigration, with people crossing the border and facing the desert heat, trying to make their way up into the country, and a lot of people that have perished on the way as they cross the border. And even today, how you learn about so many cadavers that are found out in the desert, whether it's Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. You can't help but think that, are there bodies also in these landfills? Could it be possible that people in the ranch, the King Ranch, for example, down in South Texas, that bodies have been found? Could it be possible that somebody has collected the bodies and just dumped them off in the landfill? I mean, all these crazy things cross your mind.
And what you're saying is really powerful, because I don't think a lot of people realize the experience of crossing a border. Like I don't have to think about that. I was born here.
Yeah.
Right. That's and when we talk about the Latino experience in the United States, people think that when you say Latino, then we all have this common experience. It is, but it's different, racially, ethnically, generational, class, economics, everything. We're so different, right? So that even this experience of coming to the United States, I will never have that experience, right? I have a Latino experience, but I will never have the experience of what it was like to swim to a different country
Yeah.
to pick cotton.
Right.
I don't have that experience. So what you're saying right now, I think, is extremely powerful for people to understand that these are real things, that people really die
Mm-hmm.
on the way here
Yeah.
in search of a better life. So you, and even children too, right?
Oh yeah.
So-
Yeah, women and children dying as they cross the border, making their way through the states and trying to get to a better way of life, but then not making it because it's dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. The
Mhm.
desert. Or
Yeah.
So even if you don't swim, there's a
Right.
desert,
Right.
and that is a horrible
Oh, yeah,
experience
yeah.
too.
Yeah, even if you swim and you make it, you still got to go through the desert.
Yeah, it's that's a whole other show. And
But
so-
thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
There's people out there doing a lot of research on that, and I don't mean to plug my daughter's work, but she's
please
been doing a lot
do.
of that. Jay Lee Garcia, if you've ever connect with her.
She's watching. Jay Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, but she's been doing a lot of work and a lot of studying in that field, and
Yeah.
I have to say, and again, I'm not plugging my two daughters, but
Plug away.
but both of them, Meg studying at the University of North Texas, hoping to be an LPC,
What is that?
a licensed professional counselor,
Okay.
to work with people.
I need a lot of counseling. I need a lot of
I've
counseling.
learned. I've learned that.
Yeah. See, so first
I'm
prescription
just
right
kidding,
here.
you know,
First
just-
prescription.
No, but anyway, the point I'm making is, from my upbringing to the point that I am today in my career, I've had a good ride. I've really enjoyed what I've done, and if I have faced any discrimination or racism, I've struggled and made it all the way through to having a PhD and teaching at the university level today.
We're gonna get to that.
But
But
what I do want to say is, throughout those years of experience, I almost feel the shame that I feel that I left my culture behind.
Oh.
Why? Because I had to become acclimated to
Ooh.
American way of life
Assimilation.
and to the white way of living.
Oh.
And not that I'm deeply ashamed, but I do feel that I left my heritage behind.
Oh.
And so to have my daughters explore biracial issues, documentation issues related to immigration, DACA, etc., it just makes me very, very proud to say that maybe the struggles that I went through to get to this point, and I feel like I neglected my culture. It's coming right back around because my daughters are so heavily involved with it that even though I may have neglected my culture in a way and my race, here they are exploring it and bringing it to the forefront and making an impact in their own little way. So it makes me extremely proud.
What you're saying is extremely, I think, powerful. Because you made it to a position that a lot of us will never get to, right? Based on the way that society is created.
Yeah,
and formed.
exactly.
Capitalism, racializations, classism, whatever. Last week we talked about students of color in PhD programs, and we're talking about 5% of Americans having a PhD. 1.86 of that 5% identify as Black or Latino.
Right.
So you've made it to a position that so many of us will never ever, like, you are more likely to be in prison than to get a PhD.
Yeah.
Like, that's a brown man in the United States.
Yeah.
No, you're clearly, our own president has said that you're a murderer and a rapist.
Yeah.
So you are more likely not to be here. So I think to even think of this, of what you're saying, I think is extremely powerful. Stephanie said right now, I think seeing your parents working hard labor jobs for little pay motivates people to go to college. Talking about like her experience and your experience.
Yeah.
Kathy's saying, same thing for her. She's saying seeing her parents go through what they went through has helped her to continue her education.
Good for her.
And then there are some other disrespectful comments, like me drinking. Mario saying that I need a lot of counseling. I disagree with Mario. Kayla's saying we're shameless pluggers on Woke Wednesdays. Gotta support the community, so feel free. And Kathy's saying brag about both of your daughters. They deserve it, and so do you for the sacrifices you made for them to accomplish all their success.
Well, thank you.
Stephanie's saying, "Oh man, that's deep." Stephanie saying, "Feeling like you have to leave in order to be successful." That's interesting.
Say what?
Like the fact that you have to leave.
Oh,
in order to be successful.
Yeah.
Kayla's saying assimilation is a real thing. Mara saying that's why you're plugging your daughters is beautiful. More and Jay Lee Garcia and other Kayla is clapping you. Jay Lee Garcia saying we're getting a lot of hearts. So we usually don't get a lot of hearts when it's just me, but clearly okay. Jay Lee Garcia saying more likely to be in prison than to have a PhD. Wow, that is telling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as a brown Latino, so
I have to stop you for a second.
Go
because
stop me. Please stop
what you just heard right now about more likely to be in prison.
Yeah.
I could have been a statistic. No question.
Yeah. A lot of our cousins and family members are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you make me think about growing up on South L, which by the way, South L Street was on the other side of the tracks, like you see in the movies. I mean, it was the bad side of the neighborhood. But anyway, the people that I grew up with, I can think of the kid that I grew up with, and I'm not going to name his name, but he lived next to me on my right. He's in prison for child abuse and beating his wife. The kid that lived to my left, he is in prison for drug trafficking. The kid that lived down the street about 5 blocks to my, I can still picture this in my head. This is back in the late 60s. That lived down the block to my left, he's also in prison for drug trafficking.
Yeah.
So the fact that I grew up in South L and doing what I do today, it's just
you're not supposed to be here.
I'm not supposed to be here.
You're not supposed to be here. The system has made it to where you're proving it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And that's why to me, young brown kid growing up, and I'm like, shit, finally get to see some brown people in my program. Miami's a weird place, right? You've been in Miami
2 months,
a couple months now,
yeah.
Where you don't know who's white, you don't know who's brown, you don't know who's black, you don't know who's anything, right?
Yeah.
You don't know everything that you've learned about race and ethnicity is completely challenged once you get to Miami.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to find out that you're not from Miami and you're a brown person, I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I'm like, yes, finally, I can talk to him.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to know. I felt comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of black and brown kids don't get in educational systems.
That's very true.
Right?
Yeah.
Black and brown children, we're not used to seeing people who look like us in positions that we could one day be in, but we don't think are attainable, right?
Yeah.
So your story is powerful for many reasons.
Well, thank you.
And your parents' story, you're a reflection of your parents, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So their story is super powerful too.
Yeah, like today, I mean, even if you see me, if you were to follow me around, you would probably notice that if I see somebody who looks indigenous, I kind of beeline towards them, and I can't help but think that's my.
Ese mi gente.
That's mi gente.
Yeah, my people.
Even the custodial staff here at FIU.
Yes. I'm cool with all of them. I'm not
gonna name their names, but they know me by heart. They see me and they perk up and they smile, and it's because we've connected and because I feel a super connection.
You know what they told me? They said, "Oh wow," they said, "You're a nice one. You're a respectful one."
I heard the same thing,
and I said, "Fuck, is that really?" My grandma, like she cleans dorms, right? That was her profession. She was a custodian.
Really?
And my mom, she cleans houses. That's her profession. She cleans people's houses.
Right.
So I would go with both of them, my grandma and my mom, and like from a young age, you learn to respect that craft. People, and it's interesting. People call that unskilled labor in the United States.
Right.
That's like a term. That we have skilled labor and we have unskilled.
Right.
That is an unskilled. I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because they don't have a diploma.
I'm like, I'm sorry. That is a very skilled labor.
Yeah.
The shit that they have to put up with.
Oh yeah, and there's a strategy. There's techniques to cleaning.
Yeah. And people who mostly work in domestic positions are either black or brown in the United States.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, so to have people here at a Hispanic serving institution,
oh my
at an HSI,
don't get me started
people who
with
look like you, people who have the same name as you, and tell you, oh, you're a nice one, you're a respectful one. I'm like, fuck.
Why is that happening?
Shit.
Why do we allow that to happen?
Like, even amongst our own people.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when we need to bring in class into the argument. We need to bring colorism. We need to bring citizenship versus undocumented into the conversation.
Right.
Because the Latino experience, again, is very, very complicated in the United States.
Oh, yeah, it is. I agree.
Let me read some of these comments. Let's see here. Mario, he's being disrespectful again. He's saying beige children as well. He always calls me beige.
Right on. Those are my children, by the way. They're beige.
Kayla's saying that's some hard shit right there. I was a housekeeper for 2 months. They gave you 20 rooms to clean and expect you to be done in 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that is the black and brown experience. Right?
Yeah.
That's a black and brown experience in the United States. I can't believe we've been talking for 15 minutes.
We have?
We have.
I thought we've been talking longer.
That's what I thought too.
You know what though? I have to say, I'm kind of jealous of Miami and the Cuban.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
And the Cuban influence.
What do you mean you're jealous? This is interesting. What do you mean?
I am,
what do you
because
mean?
in
You got me thinking.
in Texas, the Mexicano is still under the radar. I mean, we may dominate the state with our population in general, and we keep growing.
Yeah.
Then by the year 2020, and I can't remember my facts correctly, but by the year 2020, we're supposed to be about close to 50% or more.
Yeah.
If we're not there already, I don't know,
Yeah.
with the amount of Mexicanos that are living in
Oh,
Texas. But yet, our culture, it's viewed, our Mexican culture is viewed more as a more of a fun thing, more of tacos, guacamole, mariachi, and you think of us as
Taco Bell experience.
Yeah, you think of us as a vacation thing. But here in Miami, the Cuban influence, it's like it's deeply rooted. It is cemented.
But it's also dangerous.
How's that?
White Cuban people. Now, black Cubans are very interesting people as well. And we should also analyze the black Cuban experience. They're interesting. But white Cubans specifically in Miami are some of the most racist people I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm from the South. I'm from North Carolina. I grew up, like, below the Mason-Dixon line.
Sure.
You know, where you hear the N-word, you hear it on a regular basis. You hear the wetbacks. You hear all this.
Coming in.
Oh yeah, the Klan like was formed in the state next over, Tennessee. Like, and we see the rallies. Like, and Cuban people in Miami, I've seen them be just as hateful.
Really?
So to me, I'm like,
wow.
Not every Cuban, obviously, right? But white Cubans in Miami are some of the most despicable and horrible.
Really?
Yeah, horrific people I've ever met.
Wow.
And yeah, if it's not against people who I consider my family who are black, or myself, like Los Indios, right? It's been so pervasive to the point where they discriminate against everybody else, right? From jobs, from opportunities, language-wise. So Texas, California is an interesting place because California have a lot of Mexicans too.
Yeah.
But you're 4th, 5th generation.
Oh yeah.
Who are pretty much white at this point, right?
That's where the Chicano movement actually began. Yeah.
Who? With 4th, 5th generation?
I don't know what generation, but I know that's where the term originated. This is back in the 60s.
Wow. Okay. Well, the 60s was this revolutionary decade in the United States, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's interesting to. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that. I'm interested to see what you'll think, like, in the next year.
Yeah, I've only been here 2 months, but I know what I notice is, like, it's really...
Even with the janitors, right?
I'm sorry?
With the custodial service here on campus.
I know
the fact they say that you're a nice one.
Yeah, they've told me that.
Right?
Yeah.
So someone else clearly is not being nice to them, right?
Good point.
Like,
very good point, yeah. Somebody's noticing us, and somebody's saying hello to us, and we don't exist for the rest of the staff.
Yeah. So Stephanie's saying Cinco de Mayo parties. That's what they do here. Mario's saying Cubans had a little bit of help to mold Miami and its image. Yeah, federal
you're absolutely right.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely right.
J. Lee Garcia said, "What do y'all think about Cinco de Mayo?" Kathy's saying, "Well, they have Mexican costumes." She's clearly being facetious.
Cinco de Mayo in the States obviously it's just become another vacation, another time to party now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without even knowing the heritage or what it's for, what it stands for.
Someone finally said they agree with me, so that's cool. Kathy's saying some of the most racist people I've ever met from all 38 states I've been are in Miami.
Wow.
And Kathy said, yes, interview him again next year. I would love to see how his opinions have changed. Yeah. So Instagram kicks us off after an hour. Yeah. So then we're going to end it. And we're gonna...
You bet.
But we haven't even gotten to 6th grade yet with you.
Sixth grade?
6th or 7th grade when we start playing music. And
okay.
we want to talk about music because
that's right.
We're going to play a little bit for you tonight. You are a phenomenal musician. You are, I think...
Wow. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
What? Like, you're amazing. 2 masters. So he has a doctorate. Big deal. It is. He also has 2 masters. right? And the bachelor's thing, and one of those masters in in music education, right?
Music performance.
Music performance, and the other master's in counseling. So two different things. We don't get to do these things, and you're proving that we can also do these
Hell
things.
yeah! Oh
right?
yeah!
So this is beautiful, but we also want to hear you play because
right.
you can't be all talk. You can't be all talk and then not play. We need to hear.
I have to warn
play.
you, I haven't been playing at all. I mean, the last gig I did may have been in I've done a couple of jobs here and there, but I haven't been playing seriously since 2000.
Meg Garcia said he really is good, right? In all capital letters. And then right after that, Jaylee Garcia said that guy can rock on a cajon. I have a feeling they have a little bit of a bias. They have a little bit of bias. Mario saying, I don't have a doctorate and I can't play an instrument. And he said, I'm never getting on the show. Mario, go away.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so we got to continue the story. So we're gonna end it and then we're gonna continue. So just give us 1 second. There it goes. Nope, not yet. Nope, and it hasn't ended. End live.